To the PowerPoint, man, the first PowerPoint on the channel, but not the last. So before we start, just want to say real quick, I'm gonna read the presentation off my iPad, even though it's on my phone right here. So I'm gonna let y'all see it on my phone, but I'm gonna read it off here, so you're gonna see me look down here and stuff like that. If the words are blocked by my face cam, I'm sorry, but like I said, I'm gonna say what it says by looking at on my iPad. So yeah, you know what I'm saying. If y'all roll up. Y'all might want to roll up right now if y'all can remember stuff while you're inside that state. Because I got Miss Mary Jane with me right now. So if you know what I'm saying, if Miss Mary Jane come out, you know what I'm saying. You know why that happened. So let's hop right into it. So look, the purpose of this PowerPoint. The purpose of this PowerPoint is to explain to the viewer that psychology is spiritual. For me to explain this, I'm going to have to cover what that even means and then prove that what I'm saying is actually true. When we understand psychology is spiritual, we will understand the nature of our thoughts, our emotions, as well as the nature of our true self, which will allow us to have true clarity as to who we are and what we are experiencing. You know, I just want to prove that psychology is spiritual. That's all I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? So what does that even mean? When I say psychology is spiritual, I'm trying to get across the point that the nature of our thoughts, emotions, and what we refer to as psychology is not actually of a physical nature. In simple terms, I'm trying to prove that the human mind, with all of its thoughts and emotions, is not physical. Many people believe that the brain is what generates thoughts and emotions. This is not true, though. The brain interprets intelligence and information, and then this information gets interpreted and appears as our thoughts and emotions. I will explain this more in depth later, but for now, let's look at what psychology and spiritual mean in order to get a better understanding of what's being said. Now, by the way, that whole your brain interprets intelligence, right? So intelligence and information comes through you, right? And it appears as a thought or as an emotion. However, you know how like with a TV, right? A signal could go inside the TV and that appears as a TV show. You know what I'm saying? You know, like you plug the TV in and stuff like that. Electricity go through and all that appears as a TV show. You know what I'm saying? So the same way that our brain interprets intelligence and it appears as thoughts and emotions, your TV interprets electricity in these signals as a TV show. You see what I'm saying? So what does psychology mean? Psych- Psychology, right, means the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. The second one means the mental characteristics or attitude of a person or a group. And the last one says the mental and emotional factors governing a situation or activity. So based off the first definition, right, the study of the mind can be seen as physical and non-physical because the mind is of non-physical origins, which we're going to talk about later. Therefore, to truly study it, you have to go to the origins inside the non-physical, which is possible. The mind, though, does function through the brain, so studying the brain will help you to understand the mind on some level. Continued. When it comes to the second and third definitions, the mental and emotional characteristics of a person and the factors that govern a situation are of a non-physical nature also. Everything mental, meaning relating to the mind, is non-physical, and so are the emotions. We're going to touch on this more later. Let's define what spiritual means now, though, and let's look at what... Let's define what spiritual means, then also let's see what the mind also means. What does spiritual mean? So spiritual means relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul as opposed to material or physical things. We're going to use that one. You know what I'm saying? So pretty much spiritual means relating to the spirit. So if you want to understand what that even really means, you got to understand what the freak spirit means, to know what spiritual means. You know what I'm saying? So what does spirit mean? Spirit is the non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotions and character, the soul. So now we know that the spirit is the non-physical part of a person, meaning that spiritual means related to the non-physical part of a person. This is why I say that psychology is spiritual, aka psychology is of the non-physical. You see what I'm saying? Before I finalize my definition of psychology is spiritual, though, let me define the mind. What is the mind? So on this page, it says the element of a person that enables them to be aware of the world and their experiences, to think and to feel, the faculty of consciousness and thought. And the second one says a person's intellect. So with that being said, right, if we read the first definition, it tells us that the mind is the part of us that allows us to pretty much think, feel, and be aware of the world. That doesn't actually define what the mind is, though, as a solid thing. It just says that it is a thing that allows us to think and be aware. It doesn't actually say what that thing really is, whether it be the brain or something else. It doesn't necessarily say it's this thing per se. It just says it allows you to do this. It doesn't say what it actually is, though. So, continued. The second definition is how most people use the word mind, which is when referring to their intellect. When people say use your mind or think with your mind, they're just talking about your intellect. The intellect is what allows us to think. The intellect is not what allows us to be aware, though. Meaning that the mind, the true mind, being the thing that allows us to be aware, has to be something else besides the intellect. Because you know what I'm saying? The intellect only lets us think, but the mind helps us be aware, so it can't be the intellect. The intellect only helps us think and not become aware. See what I'm saying? So, what is the mind really? Looking at the definitions, we have no solid idea as to what the mind really is. We can say the mind is the intellect, however, the intellect only allows us to think, not be aware. The mind was defined as being the part of us that allows us to become aware of the world also. So if that's true, the mind can't be the intellect. The way I define the mind the way that I define the mind personally, right, is just as a group of information and memory that you can use your intellect to think out of. Meaning that your mind holds information in all of your experiences, which you can reference back to when you want to think about something. Even without knowing it, the way that we think right now is often heavily based off of what we have been through in the past and based off what information we already hold. You know what I'm saying? So the mind is pretty much just a group of memory and information. So why do I define the mind like this? You know how people say stuff like protect your mind? So are they saying to protect the thing that lets you become aware? Like, I mean, I suppose they could be saying that, but I don't think that's what they mean. What they mean is to protect yourself from intaking harmful information, because once you take in information, it gets stored inside your memory in the group of information that you carry, that being your mind. It gets stuck inside your mind, which can now influence how you think. Everybody's mind is different because we all hold different memories and information that makes us think and see the world differently from others. So now that we defined our mind as our personal group of information and memory that we carry, we need to find out what actually allows us to become aware of ourselves in the world. Because like I said, if the mind is just a group of memory and information, then it cannot be the thing that helps us become aware of the world and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And also, when people think about mind, you always think about kind of like the mind holding something, like as a container or something. So we always think about it like that. And even the Egyptians, the symbol for the heart was a vase, because a vase holds things. You know what I'm saying? The same way that your mind holds memory and information and stuff like that. So what allows humans to become aware? Humans are able to become aware because we have what you can call awareness or perception. I tend to use these terms interchangeably as meaning the ability to perceive. Humans have the ability to perceive, which allows them to become aware. A human's individual awareness or perception is what is referred to as the soul. So your awareness is your soul. The soul is an individualized point of awareness that is able to become conscious and eventually start thinking. The soul gives rise to the intellect due to the fact that once the soul is conscious, it is now able to think. As the soul observes many experiences inside the cosmos, it stores these memories and information inside itself, which is what gives rise to the mind, or the group of information that the soul has gathered over many experiences. You know what I'm saying? So, mind versus brain. And by the way, the soul does hold experiences. You know what I'm saying? It holds all your experiences, past life, current life, all that type of stuff. So, mind versus the brain. A lot of people think that the brain and the mind are the same. The reason for this confusion is because people tend to think that the mind is the intellect, which is the thing that thinks. And people also think that the brain is used to think. But it actually isn't. Like your brain does not generate thought. People think that, though. That's why they confuse the mind and the brain, the intellect and the brain, but they're not the same. So, when you look at what the brain actually does, you learn that it is the seat of intelligence and that it also interprets the senses. The brain, being the seat of intelligence, means that it does not generate intelligence. It is only the seat where your intelligence, that being your soul, sits. It is also the interpreter of the senses, and the senses interpret information, so the brain interprets information. And like I said with the whole seat thing, your brain does not generate intelligence. It is the seat. Intelligence sits inside the brain, so intelligence is separate and it sits inside the brain. And your intelligence is your soul. Now I'm going to explain that and stuff like that. So, understanding how the brain works. Inside the picture thing, you see that it talks about how it's the seat of intelligence, interpreter of senses, initiator of body movement, all that other stuff, right? So the brain is the seat of intelligence, our intelligence being our soul. The brain is part of the nervous system, which has two parts, the peripheral and the central. The peripheral nervous system sends signals from the senses to the brain. The peripheral nervous system sends signals from the senses to the body, sends signals from the senses and the body to the brain, and in the central nervous system. And in the central nervous system, oh my god, I butchered that so bad, bro. Pretty much, right? Your peripheral nervous system, right, takes in information and then sends it to the brain. You know what I'm saying? And then inside the central, right, you process information and send information out to the body. You see what I'm saying? Continued. Your peripheral nervous system is how you get information from the outside world. Your senses gather information, then the peripheral nervous system sends it to your central nervous system in order for that information to be looked at and processed by your soul or your individual point of awareness or your own intelligence. And then from here, the soul can look at the information and then choose to act out its intelligence, which is thinking. Thinking is acting out intelligence. And then it can send the thoughts back out to the periphery, to the peripheral nervous system and stuff like that, and have the body act out its commands and stuff like that. Understanding intelligence. Now that we understand that the brain is the seat of our soul and the interpreter of information, we now need to understand what intelligence actually is. Our own individualized intelligence is our soul. Intelligence is the creative force of the universe, which everything is composed of. This is something that the ancients knew, and in order to understand, let's define intelligence. So it says that intelligence is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. So by this definition, we can say that it pretty much just means the ability to know and then act out that knowledge. The whole universe is just intelligence acting itself out, and our soul is just a piece of that intelligence that became aware of itself. In order to understand, let's find out how the universe became intelligent anyway. How it became intelligent. So as I just said, the universe is just intelligence acting itself out. Intelligence means the ability to know and then act out that knowledge. So that means that the universe is just the ability to know and act out that knowledge. But what does it have the ability to know? What knowledge is being acted out? See, more specifically, the universe is just awareness or perception, meaning that the universe is the ability to perceive. But perceive what though? Perceive itself in its own awareness. The universe is awareness, and awareness became aware of itself, aka conscious. The universe or awareness perceived its own self, which allowed it to know that it was there, and then eventually it acted out that knowledge. In other words, the universe perceived itself, became intelligent because it now knew that it existed, and then it acted itself out, and it acted out that intelligence of it, knowing that it's actually a being that's in the cosmos, and you know what I'm saying? The universe became aware of itself and then acted itself out pretty much, you know what I'm saying? AKA it acted out its own intelligence, it acted out its own knowledge and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? The ancients knew everything made of intelligence. They already knew this. So look, the ancients were very aware that intelligence is the creative force of the universe. We can tell this by looking at Egyptian mythology. Ra, Thoth, Hathor, and Ma'at are four deities in Egyptian mythology that prove that the ancient people already knew that intelligence composed reality. Ra represents light, energy, or the spirits, which is the creative force of the universe. Ra is the highest god in his theology. However, at the same time Ra manifests, Thoth, Hathor, and Ma'at also manifest, which means that they are a part of Ra. Ra, being the spirit, light, or energy, is composed of Thoth, Hathor, and Ma'at. And those three represent intelligence, will, and the interaction of those two. The spirit, energy, or light is just intelligence acting itself out. Energy is intelligence. Science defines energy as light, or electromagnetic radiation. This radiation comes from electromagnetic waves. Magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charges. That's important because thoughts generate electric charges and waves. Thought is just intelligence acting itself out. When you think, you generate emotions, and emotions make magnetic waves. We learned that magnetism is formed from electric charges, and that the charges come from thought or intelligence acting itself out. So intelligence acting itself out makes electric charges and waves that will eventually generate magnetic waves, which will eventually generate electromagnetic radiation, light, energy, or the spirit. You see what I'm saying? Even science knows this. You know what I'm talking about? Energy is just intelligence. It's just, it could be seen as thought and emotion or as intelligence acting itself out. You know what I'm saying? So where does the soul come from? Now we need to understand where our soul, and by the way, yes, light and energy is the thoughts and emotions of the creator. Electric waves, magnetic waves, you know what I'm saying? Intelligence acting itself out, yeah. So where the soul comes from. Now we need to understand where our soul actually comes from. Our soul is an individualized point of awareness. Earlier we talked about how the universe is awareness, and when it became aware of itself, it gained intelligence, and then it acted this intelligence out. When that intelligence, the spirit, acts itself out, it splits into smaller groups of intelligence that may or may not become aware. The intelligence inside of a rock is different from the one inside your body. The rock has a spirit in it. It has an intelligence in it, which is expressing itself as a rock, and that intelligence could be referred to as a soul, but it usually isn't because the spirit inside of a rock is not aware. The spirit in us is aware of itself, so we call it soul. A spirit and a soul are technically the same. A soul is just a spirit or intelligence that also has consciousness, aka awareness of itself. How memory works. Now let's talk about that. Your soul is an intelligence that holds its own memory or information. Your body is composed of intelligences that hold its own memory and information. So an example, the intelligence in your heart has the information to know how to make your heart beat, while the one in your gut knows how to digest food. You know what I'm saying? The intelligences that make up the cells in your body aren't aware of themselves. However, when a soul enters the body, the information can be shared. So for an example, your genes have memory. Your genes hold memory, right? You can have the memories shared to your soul from your genes and stuff like that. Also, you enter the body, memory gets stored all over the body. All your cells hold memory and information. Some come from evolution, that being the fact that as cells evolve and gain information, they start to learn you are a human cell. You know what I'm saying? So that's evolutionary memory. Some come from your soul experiences, and then some come from the experiences inside this life. You know what I'm saying? But memory gets stored all over the body from your soul, from evolution, from experiences right now, etc. You know what I'm saying? How the soul thinks. To understand how the soul thinks, we must go back to the macrocosm, that being the whole universe. The universe is awareness, and because that awareness became aware of itself, it became intelligent and then acted out its intelligence. The universe expanding is the universe thinking. As thought, intelligence acting itself out, is the creative force in humans the same way that is the creative force of the cosmos. So thought creates with humans and it creates with the whole universe. You know what I'm saying? That's important to understand because thinking is something that the universe does and we just mimic that process. You know what I'm saying? The universe thinks. It acts out intelligence. When we think, we're just acting out our own intelligence. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. We're copying the universe. You know what I'm saying? The reason why we can't create the same as the universe, though, is because when the universe became aware, it became aware of its whole being. Our soul split from that whole being. So we are only aware of the individual part that split. Continued. That's important because that's important to understand because as split beings from the whole, we can only think based upon what we have. Our intelligence is a split intelligence from the whole, so we can only act out the intelligence that we have. As souls, our piece of intelligence is conscious. Therefore, we can observe things which make us gain more information, and we can then act out or think based off that information. As souls, we observed many different experiences. In order to gain information and memory, so that way we can express ourselves in a higher manner based upon the information and memory that we have collected. The information that we hold can also influence the way that we think, in the sense that if something gave us information and memories that made us feel bad, we'll tend to avoid that. You see what I'm saying? So that's how our soul thinks. We just think based upon what we have experienced. You know what I'm saying? Literally. Are the soul and the mind the same? Earlier, I said that I defined the mind as a group of information and memory that we have the ability to think out of. Oh my God, the butchering, man. The mind's a group of information that we could think out of, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? I also talked about how our soul holds memory. So is our soul our mind? I mean, you could say that, like the soul holds its own memory. However, so does the body and the cells inside the body. So when you mix with the body, that adds to the memory and information you have access to, which means it would add to your mind or a group of information and memory that you carry. You know what I'm saying? So like your body's intelligences mixed with your soul and stuff like that. You have access to more memory from your body that your soul would not normally have. You see what I'm saying? Also, your soul is what allows you to become aware and think. So off that Google definition, the soul of man, or what man, would be the real mind. Currently, though, we're actually inside of a giant mind. Right now, you are inside a giant group of information and memory that's still acting itself out and expanding this very second. How amazing is it to be inside this great intelligent mind that we call the cosmos? Yo, you see how I typed it? How this is the great intelligence mind. The typing, wow, bro. Anyway, the universe versus your mind. Even though, based off definitions, we can see that the universe is a giant mind or a giant group of information that is also acting itself out, it still may be hard for us to understand this. To easily understand, just look at your dreams. In your dreams, you're walking inside your own mind or personal group of memory and information. While inside your mind, there's a whole world, though, just like this one. So even though you may be like, how am I inside of a mind, but I can still think? Well, inside your own dreams, you're inside your mind, but you still think. So it's the same as this, you know what I'm saying? Earlier, we mentioned how the soul can be seen as the mind because it holds information. I'm bringing this up because when you are inside your dreams, you are literally inside your soul, and your soul is splitting as the many characters and experiences that you have in order for your soul to communicate with you. That's important to understand because when you dream, you are experiencing your soul. But when you leave your body, you no longer experience your soul. You actually become the individual soul and you experience the greater soul or the spirit that makes this whole entire universe and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying? So now to end it off, right? Why psychology is spiritual. Psychology is spiritual because whether you use psychology to refer to the mind or the actual study of psychology, both are of a non-physical nature. The brain is not the mind and the mind is not physical. The mind is a group of memory and information, and by Google definition, the mind would also be the soul. Memory, information, and the soul are all spiritual, meaning that they are not physical in nature. When studying the mind, looking at the brain does help. However, studying your own consciousness is more effective in understanding how the mind or your soul works. That's why yogis, Buddhists, mystics, etc., who go within and observe their own consciousness, they have such a great understanding of life, people, and their own psychology. All they had to do was study themselves in order to know how the mind works. And by mind, I mean as in the soul and the giant cosmic mind and group of information. Because you know what I mean? Like yogis and stuff like that, right? They know how their soul works and how this whole giant mind works from the out. You know what I'm saying? Like they know all that type of stuff because they just literally went inside themselves. You go inside yourself, you get how the outside works and how your inside soul works. Is pretty freaking dope. And with that being said, the end. To understand your mind, go with inside the depths of your soul. The point of this PowerPoint was to prove that psychology is spiritual and that it is of the non-physical, meaning that to actually understand your own psychology, your own mind, your own thoughts and emotions, you have to go inside your soul. You have to touch the non-physical parts of yourself. You have to go within. Reading books helps. Studying the brain does help, but at the end of the day, you got to go with inside to actually understand these deeper parts of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Psychology is actually spiritual. It's something non-physical. You got to experience the non-physical part of yourself to actually understand your own psychology, your own mind, your own memory, thoughts, emotions, all that type of stuff. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this PowerPoint. I'm going to make many more. That's it for this video. Peace.